As a consultant in the space of data and technology, I love solving problems, and especially the ones which are newer to us, which is every other day, considering how fast things move in technology. So when I was to talk on our identity, I felt an immediate need to do some research. It was very new to me. And I did that by means of a small survey. I spoke to some of my friends just to get an idea on what do they think of our identity. To my surprise, I got a very, very similar response. Everyone said, it's a very difficult conversation. Our identity is ever changing. And there, I found a problem to solve. How might we create an identity that is sustainable? And I'm also a design thinking practitioner, and there came my design thinking hat. When I'm faced with a very big problem, we try to break it down into smaller chunks. And there, let's focus on the two major parts of this conversation, identity and sustainable, and start from identity. And let's see where does this identity comes from. And for that, let me tell you a story which fascinated me when I read it. I read it in the prologue of the book, The Alchemist. It's a story of a youth, Narcissus. Narcissus was very fascinated with his own self, so much so that he would actually go and kneel down beside a lake every day. One day, while kneeling down beside the lake, he actually fell into the lake and drowned. The place where he drowned, a flower was born, and the flower is called Narcissus. After some days, the goddess of forest passed by the lake, and she found the lake, which was actually a freshwater lake, had turned into a lake of salty tears. She asked the lake, "Why do you weep?" For that, the lake replied, "I weep for Narcissus." Lake said, "Yeah, of course." The goddess said, "Yes, of course, considering, you were the only person who could, you were one of those people who, or the only person who could contemplate his beauty at such a close hand." To that, lake paused and said, "Was Narcissus beautiful?" Goddess was surprised. And after a moment of pause, lake said, "I weep for Narcissus, but I never thought he was beautiful. I never knew he was beautiful. I weep because every time he bent down beside me at my banks, in the depth of his eyes, I saw my own beauty reflected." When I read this, my first reaction was, wow, how both Lake and Narcissus felt beautiful in each other's presence and were attracted towards each other. It was followed by an immediate sadness. I felt sad that how limited were their sense of identities. When one perished, the other could not survive too. Identities. We are attracted to people who are like us in some way or the other. Because there is some common, they reflect some part of us. Have you ever noticed how your friends have some unique characteristic which is very close to us as well? Because that is something which exists within us. Like, for example, I'm always very quickly friends with people who love ice creams and chocolates, especially in stress. Similarly, just not with people, we have an identity with the environment too. Our identity with the environment is from where we are born, the place we were born to, from the cities we lived, the schools we went. And in Contonium, we have an identity with the nature too. How some of us love beaches and some of love mountains. I call them extrinsic identities. And in my own words, I call them my cocoon, my comfort zone. What I call my intrinsic identities are the identities I have with my own self. My identity with my mind, my body, my emotions. Example of my identity with my mind. I'm a detailed and a very process-oriented person at work. Otherwise, my mother thinks I'm a non-conformist. Imagine if it was the other way around. My identity with my emotions. I'm caring, but sometimes I'm nonchalant. My identity with my body. When I can't find a dress to wear, I feel I'm petite. But when I go to gym and do a few more extra burpees than the person next to me, I feel I'm strong. And they're always changing, ever changing. And they're very driven by the extrinsic identities. So now you must be thinking, if we have an identity which is continuously changing with the environment, with time, then what is a sustainable identity? Let's try to deep down a little more further in this and understand this with the example of a school. We all have been to schools, and you all are in school. School has an identity of an environment. However, every school has an identity of its own, and that identity comes from the methods and the impact that methods have on the life of the children while they are growing in their learning and growing journeys. Similarly, in school, we have teachers. Teachers have an identity of their own, and their identities are their methods. And the impact they are able to create on their children. How our teachers always know when we are not listening? Because they know the impact of their conversation, and they can quickly ask us a question. While in this example, both school and teachers are focused on children, the human factor, and the impact on those methods on the growth of those kids, on the students. However, the impact of the methods diminishes with time. Why so? Because year on year, there are change in the way things are moving around us. While the teacher stays the same, the new batches of children come, they come from different places. So the same methods do not work all the time. And hence, one has to keep improvising, and that's what schools do. Our extrinsic identities can be sustained when we sustain impact. At the same time, our evolving methods that are centric to human needs will sustain our identity. Now, you must be thinking, I seems to have solved this problem, but no. This is exactly where this is going to get a little more complicated. We're talking about the methods, and we're talking about the impact of our methods which are establishing our identity. But our methods just do not impact us. They just do not impact our goals. They impact us, they impact other people, they impact environment. They also sometimes impact nature. Take plastic as an example. It started as it was invented as a solution to many problems, solving many problems for humans. But today, it's the biggest problems we human beings are dealing with. Similarly, if I'm chasing my goals and I'm not taking care of myself, is it going to be sustainable? No. So what happens in an extrinsic environment? This becomes our day-to-day, I would say, challenges. If we are able to sustain this every day, care for ourselves, the people around us, our environment, and nature too, while working on our goals, this is how it looks like. Yes, and I think if we are doing this every day, we have an identity of a superhuman. Since I do not do this every day, I'm not a superhuman. I also focus on my interests, my own intrinsic identities. And I do that, but before that, I also do these things at work, at my own work. Not every day, not 365 days, but some of the days. My identity at work as a consultant is to solve problems. And I use technology extensively to solve problems. In one such problem which we were solving for one such data-related problem which we were solving in the space of testing, for which we filed a patent last year, is very persona-driven problem. It is human-centric. The entire design is such which helps testers perform their day-to-day testing easily. And it's a very, I don't want to get into a technicality of this, but end of the day, there's an impact. There's a saving of time and effort. And for which, as I said, we could file a patent. And it's very simple, automation. But there are days when we are not innovating. There are days when we are reusing what we are. But whatever we do, we keep humans at the center of our solutions. At the same time, when we are designing, especially in the space of products, we are also very careful about the impact on the environment. The programs we write, we ensure that they're not consuming a lot of CPU and memory. Environmental impact. But can I do this every single day? No. And that's when we go back into our intrinsic identities. Our intrinsic identities is a discovery. And it's an everyday discovery of what is important to us, which is a little away from what we do in the environment we are in. For example, I'm a very outdoor person, and I'm very easily influenced by whatever I see. I see something, I'm like, oh wow, I too want to try. But I'm a very hands-on person. I'm not a person who would like to have them, but I would like to try them. In my growing up years, I was very absorbed with cricket, like all of us in India are, you know. And I used to play cricket for the school, in the school teams. And subsequently, when we changed cities, I didn't get a chance. And later, when I joined my corporate job, I got a chance to play cricket again. And then I started playing regularly, and I won a few Man of the Match award. And that's another story. We'll come to that someday. I also captained the corporate women cricket team till I had the chance. And then I changed the corporate, and then I was not playing. Then I started dancing, and I've always been a dancer. I learned dancing all throughout my school days, Bharatanatyam. But I was very, very fascinated with Kathak. So I started learning to dance Kathak. At the same time, I was dancing in my corporates. Won a few Dancing Queen awards, if I can say so. I'm also very attracted towards runners, the passion with which they run. I started running for fitness, and then ran a few half marathons, about 6 of them, and then ran a Mumbai full marathon in 2018, the 42 kilometers. And that was amazing too. Subsequently, I did a Himalayan trek, did about 15,750 feet, and did 25 push-ups there too, at the summit. And yes, I am trying, and I keep trying, and that discovery of my intrinsic identity is an ongoing process. All these things I spoke about, my cricket, am I the best cricketer in the world, or do I play for a league? No. Am I the fastest runner? No. But whatever I do, I love it. I enjoy every moment of it. And the pursuit of these little goals helps me find the focus on what is important to me. It is important that we discover what makes us happy, find a path to pursue it, and make the effort to accomplish it. Anyone who would say which movie? Okay, I will come to that later. But I'm sure this movie has an identity of its own. These events in life are very small, if you see in the scheme of things in the world. everything is moving so much and so big. But our identity is us. What is important to us, you know? And while, how much ever big or small they are, they help in being what I am today. And they're very, very important part of my intrinsic identities. Our sustainable identity is to make best of what we have, to be conscious of how our actions affect people, to have a positive impact on our surroundings, and to leave this world a better place than we found it. Thank you.